Now what? Dear boss. Okay. A letter like no other arrived at London's Central News Office. It was secured in an envelope postmarked East London and written in red ink. Its contents raised the hairs of all who read it. Of course, there would be a letter right about now as well.
Dear boss, I keep on hearing the police have caught me, but they won't fix me just yet. I have laughed when they look so clever and talk about being on the right track. I am down on whores, and I shan't quit ripping them till I do get buckled. How can they catch me now? I love my work and want to start again. I saved some of the proper red stuff in a ginger beer bottle over the last job to write with. But it went thick like glue and I can't use it. Red ink is fit enough, I hope. The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off and send to the police officers just for jolly, wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you? Huh. So this Jack the Ripper also has very elegant handwriting.
Keep this letter back till I do a bit more work, then give it out straight. My knife's so nice and sharp I want to get to work right away if I get a chance. Good luck. Yours truly, Jack the Ripper. P.S. Wasn't good enough to post this before I got all the red ink off my hands, curse it. No luck yet. They say I'm a doctor now.
Don't give me ha-ha, you sick bastard!
Inspector Lestrade poked at Ryan's head. Ryan's just being diligent in writing what's actually there.
Oh, they're not my words. All I did was read the Ripper's letter.
Just what is he thinking?
Inspector Lestrade scowled as he'd done often lately. So often, in fact, that it was to be certain new recruits thought the expression his natural one. Poor Lestrade.
Inspector, I'm of the opinion that it was not the Ripper who wrote this. It was likely the work of someone who thought it would be a laugh to do so. Don't take this nonsense seriously, or you'll throw the entire investigation into confusion. Even if it were legitimate, the time spent analyzing it would just give him more time to kill. Oh, we felt much the same, my good man, until we read the rest. Was there more?
Well, an entire second page's worth.
Read it for me.
Right away, sir. P.P.S. Silly me. Wish I had the good ink for this one. I am going to butcher that pretentious slut who fancies herself the Queen's detective, Emily Whiteley.
Who wrote this? Because now it's not our Jack and it's not the other Jack. Like, the real Jack the Ripper wouldn't bother with Emily, because Emily's not actually a prostitute. Our Jack is trying to kill us, but would not write something like this. My money's on Morin.
Once I'm done making a slaughterhouse of all the whores in the East End, I'm going to get my jollies by killing out the next 1,500 pretty things I don't like. Oh, to see the face of Her Majesty after my next job! Even she will go pale. Won't keep you waiting long. I wonder how many idiots who thought my games would stay in the East End will piss themselves then. Ha ha! That's all there is.
For a short while, no one said a word.
I see. Well, that is interesting, but... Miss Whiteley is a friend of your son's, isn't she? Indeed. She is a beloved young lady in general. But why write her name?
Sherlock Holmes, who had been scrutinizing the letter since the conversation began, looked up with a puzzled frown.
What should we do, Inspector? It's not impossible for this to be false. But with someone having been named, it's a bit difficult to stand here and do nothing. What if she is being targeted next?
True or false?
Oh, sorry. Wrong voice.
True or false, we'll have some of our men guard the Whiteley residence. Our duty as policemen is first and foremost to protect the good people of London, and she is as good as they come. Do you intend to take from those stationed in Whitechapel and move them south of the Thames? Yes. I have my doubts of the letter's veracity, as I'm sure we all do. Still, I would prioritize the preservation of human life over the capture of criminals. So long as the threat may be genuine, I want to protect her. You're a man of good character, Inspector. Decreasing police presence in Whitechapel does pose its risks, however, if I may point out. Were I Jack the Ripper, I would act knowing I had more freedom in my playground. Then what do you suggest? Half of the East End's inhabitants are men. We should appeal for their help. A fine idea, if it weren't so impossible. They're all scared down to the boots of Jack the Ripper. Alone, yes, but any man may screw their courage up when the lives of their wives, daughters, or lovers are at stake. If we receive some assistance, it will better our chances when we send some of our own men to defend the Whiteley residence. Well, I will try, but their criticisms towards us grow worse each day. I dare say they would sooner let us rot than lend a hand. Then they should sooner learn that at the end of the day, we all must look after ourselves.
Inspector Lestrade looked out into the city with sadness. London streets had lost their color since the Ripper murders began, and that had become especially pronounced in Whitechapel. He much preferred something more of a bustle.
Pardon me, Inspector. Would your staff be able to produce a photograph of the letter for my reference? That isn't a problem, but whatever do you need one for? Oh, I just wanted to do a bit of thinking on my end.
Sherlock Holmes did not have to wait long for the negatives to produce a copy for him, whereupon he carefully placed it in his breast pocket. He then returned his eyes to the map with markings for each murder on the wall. Southwest London at the Whiteley residence. And we're back with our girl. This is a letter from Jack the Ripper?
Yes. Supposedly it was written in red ink.
My eyes opened wide in shock as I looked at the photograph. This was the most careless scrawl I'd ever seen. It made seeing my name on the second page all the more unsettling. But are you certain this is the Ripper's doing? I can't see this as being anything more than a practical joke. I would hope that at any rate. Unsure what to think of it, I asked what he made of the situation. Holmes nodded, calm as ever. A trait of his I was most grateful for in times like these.
We've yet to ascertain whether this is genuine or not. I haven't seen the real thing myself, which was sent to the London Central News office. Father only handed me this photograph here. It's likely to be in tomorrow's paper, so I thought I would show it to you before then. I didn't want to frighten you, but you are, after all, one of Her Majesty's detectives.
Indeed, I am. Thank you for telling me. I'd rather know. Good old Holmes. Stay rational, I reminded myself. My mind had been rattled. I could not stop reading over the letter, and the more I read it, the more fear overwhelmed me. You should compare that to the letters you've been getting from Jack. I know Jack can actually imitate a lot of people's handwriting, but still. It could very well have been false, but the dread grabbed hold and refused to loosen its grip. I could not ignore my name in a murderer's ink.
One can never be too careful, even in the face of a practical joke. It's probably for the best if you put your safety first, and avoid leaving the mansion for a while. At least it's Saturday, so you won't miss school. Still, if this keeps on into next week, no one would fault you for staying home.
All right. My feelings were mixed. I didn't want to hide, trembling like a newborn fawn, inside my own home because of baseless threats. And if the letter had some base? Well, that was the lone reason I humored the circumstances. My acting frivolous for the sake of pride would affect not only me, but my loved ones and acquaintances as well. If the Jack I know is the same Jack who wrote this, then everything penned that's ever given me a smile was penned by the same man who wants to take my life. What was that noise? Jack wouldn't write such a thing. He would never wish to kill me. Would he? Any other explanation would have made me happier. Holmes, may I borrow this photograph?
Of course. I thought you would like it, so I've already asked Father. He's given his blessing as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Should anything come to mind, send word at once. With that, we shall be leaving for today. No leaving for any reason, all right? For your sake.
Okay, only if my boyfriend shows up and is like, you must come with me if you want to live. That's the only way I'm going.
And please, watch over her, Pendleton. As I always do. Scotland Yard will be guarding the mansion on all sides also. I wish the two of you luck in seizing the culprit and putting an end to this case.
Stay well.
We will. And I meant it. We'll be back another time. But if you think of anything relating to the culprit, anything at all, please reach out to us straight away. We'll see you in a bit, all right, Emily?
And so they retired from the mansion, leaving me to sit in what may have been considered London's most luxurious prison cell. Dang. I mean, at least you're home. The second the door closed behind them, I was stricken with loneliness. Unease. My battle was one of being protected whilst others fought on the front lines. With the photograph secured in my hand, I returned to my room. Come on, girl. Ah, I'm so proud of you, girl. My first order of business was to reach for one of Jack's letters in my desk drawer. There was something I wanted to confirm. To Emily Whiteley. I read its contents aloud mechanically, barely aware that I was even doing so. I never wanted to use these in such a way, but what choice do I have? Equipped with a keen eye, I placed the photograph and the letter next to one another, analyzing each stroke and curl. The handwriting is completely different. Thank God. All tension in my body seemed to disappear in an instant. Thank God. Thank God. Oh, thank God! Jack Miller's isn't Jack the Ripper! I've been a fool. How could I have ever been duped by such rubbish? I wondered what had possibly come over me of late. But this didn't answer everything. I thought back to the handkerchief I'd lent to him. I thought back to the man with the silk hat and what was wrapped around his hand. Just like that, a shocking revelation came to me. But that murder hasn't been in the paper at all. Why? Jack the Ripper's murders are always front-page news with sensational headlines like, "The Ripper has ripped again." That sounds so rude. The Ripper has ripped another one in Whitechapel. The smell is atrocious. I'm sorry. That was a bad one. Don't look upon me. Don't look upon me. Alright, calming water. Okay, we good. The circumstances almost didn't seem real, but they were, and I could now feel it as if it were some physical presence prickling about the surface of my skin. Of course, if a body is never found at the scene, then there isn't a case to open. I was the only witness for that murder. So long as I never mention it, it's as though nothing's happened. I guess that person who got killed didn't have any family or friends or anything? The body must have been disposed of. All evidence was likely removed from the scene as well. That being said, Jack the Ripper consistently mutilates his victims in a dramatic fashion, almost as if to show off his masterpieces to the world. My ponderings were interrupted by a low rapping on the door. Yes? My voice came out much higher than I'd intended.
May I come in, my lady?
Oh, of course. I hurriedly shuffled to place Jack's letter back in the drawer. Pendleton, being the observant man he was at all hours, noticed my suspicious behavior and returned it with a raised brow.
My lady, did you just hide something?
You could have said, 1 moment, please. Let me make myself decent. And then, like, you may enter now. What? No, you're being silly.
Am I? From my perspective, it's the opposite. Is it something so shameful that you feel the need to shield my innocence?
No? Nothing like that. There was no reason to feign ignorance with Pendleton's bloodhound-like nose already sniffing for evidence, and so, with some resignation, I presented both the letter and photograph to him by placing them clearly atop my desk.
So was the photograph of the Ripper's letter. And what might the other letter be?
It's from a friend at the academy.
Were you comparing the handwriting?
I was. Only as a precaution, however. But look! As you can see, they're quite different to each other. I confidently held both up so that he could get a closer look.
My lady, I'm afraid based on this evidence alone, it would be impossible to suggest these were written by two different individuals.
Why?
I can point out a number of similarities. The open letter O's, the clear slant in each letter L. In fact, those two examples alone might be enough to persuade many into believing these were written by the same hand.
These noises! I've never heard these noises before. I'm just like, dread noise. That's impossible! How can it be?
Those who specialize in drawing comparisons between letters can identify quirks a person couldn't hide, even if they were consciously attempting to do so. You know this, of course. Are you seeking the truth, my lady, or is this your way of protecting someone?
I stopped. I had no proper answer. Forgive me. Were I to answer now, I'd be tempted to say something irrational. What if I've been blinded by terror? What if the truth has terrified me so much that I'm being sooner bought by falsehoods? I don't want to see what I don't want to see. I don't want to know what I don't want to know. Which means I'll never find the truth, no matter how hard I search. Her Majesty gave me this ring, and it's useless as I am now. I am so sorry. I pressed on with this case without thinking it through. And where am I now? Stuck at my bedside, unable to do a single thing.
Be at ease, my lady. You are in no danger. As long as you stay within the walls of this mansion, I and the officers of Scotland Yard will see to it that you are protected.
Scotland Yard?
Indeed. Inspector Lestrade reached out to us, stating that he has no intention of allowing you to become the Ripper's next victim. We will be vigilant in our watch of the mansion. I'm sure they're in position as we speak. All I ask in turn is that you do not step outside for the time being. Whilst inside, refrain from opening the curtains or going near any of the windows. Is that too much to ask?
I'll do precisely that. They're simple enough requests. Thank you, Pendleton. Why do I feel like I'm gonna break this promise in like 5 minutes? I was grateful. Pendleton had been with me for many, many years. He was quick to chide me for selfish whims and seemed to delight in prodding my weaknesses. But tonight, there would be no chidings or proddings. He only thought to support me. Genuinely, I was grateful, but it was not enough to settle my soul. I still didn't know why Jack the Ripper was targeting me.
I don't have the answers you're hoping for. Until your questions become answers, I urge you to mentally prepare yourself for what they could be. No matter what they are, you will always be at the forefront of my mind.
I mean, thanks, I guess. A somber spirit haunted the grounds of the mansion. The sun sank below the horizon, bidding my spirit a nighttime strength. In time, the sky was black. With some yellow. I took Jack's letter, now crinkled from my mishandlings, into my hand for another read, but I only read the very end. Jack Millers. I touched his name. Somehow the act alone made them easier to hear, even if there was no one to say them next to me. I was crippled beneath the circumstances. As my fingers dipped along the paper gracefully, I could not understand why the feeling gave me both a comfort beyond words and loneliness I'd never known. Because you in love with him, girl. The sun had long set on the east end.
Can I kill Emily? Can I kill her?
Jack looked down at the palms of his hands.
I've killed more people than I can count. What am I hesitating now for? But...
Good morning, Jack. I'd like to introduce myself properly, if you don't mind. I'm Emily Whiteley. It's a pleasure to meet you. Right then. Since we've never had a chance to speak to one another, I thought today might be a good day to try.
She always treated me proper. Like another human being. Like a friend.
Jack, if it's no trouble to you, I have a thought. How would you feel about exchanging letters? I'm looking forward to your reply. You must write one now, all right?
Perhaps it wasn't anything special to others, but it was a first for me. Something funny.
Oh, I'm just happy to be able to sit next to you. That's all.
I still don't understand you. What's there to be happy about?
You, of course. Back when we first met, you were almost vigilant in how you pushed everyone away. But now, you let me sit next to you. I can talk to you as much as I'd like.
Nobody's ever smiled so happily next to me in my whole life. Nobody.
I don't know, I'm in awe that this boy, who has killed, in his own words, innumerable people, hesitated because somebody showed him human kindness. Like, if anybody else in the school had done that up to this point, he could have potentially stopped this, like, way earlier. But it's because Emily treated him well. I mean, he's also falling in love with her, but just think about if, like, the entire school had treated him well from the beginning. What a difference that would have made in this boy's life. Oh, my heart. He's just a being underneath all the daggers and murder. He needs a hug. Jack admired the white handkerchief given to him by Emily.
I can't do it. I could never do that to her.
He balled it within a fist with an intensity that caused his entire hand to tremble.
She did my head in at first. Then she became why I looked forward to school. It wasn't long, but each day with her was brighter and warmer than any day I ever knew. I wish I could go back there and talk to her more.
Aww. But he knew very well that it was too late for that. As he observed from above, he spotted a number of Scotland Yard officers on patrol, each one moving with a weary but inspired swagger.
Time to switch. Seen anyone suspicious? Not a soul. You? The same for me. The people have tried to help, they have. Just most of the rumors and the like haven't led to anything yet.
Of course you ain't seen a soul. I wouldn't let you. I know how to stay out of a copper's sights. It's what I've done since I was a boy. I'd never let him catch me in the act. Only one who can do that is him. He knows how I work. But if I disobey one of the Colonel's orders again, I'll need to slum it out away from London. No. Even if I left London, I wouldn't be safe. The organization will come after me. They stop at nothing to eliminate traitors. It's to be the case for Emily, too, seeing as she saw me.
Yes, there wasn't a doubt what they planned for her in his mind, which set him tense and terrified equally. He could not bear to stay still.
I've gotta go. Now. Got no idea she'll believe what I'm saying, but still. I just need to get her out of the city. I don't wish to scare her any more than I've got to, but she has to know.
Aw, such a brave boy! Risking his life for her. Securing the handkerchief on his person, Jack slipped deeper into the shadows.
How goes the hunt for evidence? Anything?
Not a blasted scrap to be found. I've instructed the men to report everything and anything. Oh, a fine plan that's turned out to be.
Very well, then. Keep at it. I understand how exhausting it's been from patrols alone, but the criminal has been persistent in committing the murders between late night and early morning. It won't be much longer.
We certainly will.
Sherlock Holmes. The yard's got his up, and even then they can't sniff out a lead. They don't even see me standing under their noses. How do they hope to catch a bloody murderer like this? Put your backs into this now, detectives.
Midnight had struck. Scotland Yard, though fatigue had begun to persuade them as they neglected to turn the right corners, were ever dutiful in watching the streets. Not even they, however, could restore what little faith there had been to Whitechapel. Death prowled the East End with a proud stench stronger than the bells of its local church could chime.
That's it. I'll make me way to the Whiteley mansion.
And so he moved with all due haste. To his observations, the night was young, and with the police presently occupied at the scene, the rest of the city would be light in security. He did suppose the mansion itself would be well equipped with guards and the like, as any noble's mansion might be with a killer roaming the streets, but that would pose no issue for him. The fog hanging at the rooftops proved valuable cover as he continued on. Dang. It's always with the fog. The Whiteley mansion stood southwest of the Thames. Jack the Ripper was poised to arrive any time, and so Scotland Yard's men stood barrel-chested, bottom lips pouted but stern, and weapons at the ready should a confrontation come about. They would be fools to only have them standing guard. In addition to the obvious, more lay hidden behind shrubbery or whatever else could be used as cover. In their eyes, no passage had gone unchecked. That's the chime for midnight.
My lady, I should ask you again to stay away from the windows. The curtains are drawn, but that alone doesn't promise you safety. The Ripper may already be aware this is your bedroom.
I'm sorry. I've become so used to enjoying the night breeze from here, you see. Yeah, like, why don't you sleep somewhere else in one of your numerous mansion bedrooms tonight?
Even so, tomorrow is Monday. You would like to attend class regardless of the threat, yes? Then you'd best get to bed. Any longer and you won't be able to concentrate.
I can't believe he's actually considering letting her go to school with all this going on.
You weren't able to sleep last night either, were you?
Both very agreeable points. Ah, but before I do, Holmes and his father are both in Whitechapel tonight, aren't they?
It's a rather important case, so they must attend to the scene of the crime.
Right then, a loud noise pelted the windows, giving me a start. What is that, rain? Oh, that's wind. Good grief.
Not to worry, my lady. Just the wind. The fog's become quite thick as well.
Despite the wind roaring with fury, it seemingly did nothing to lessen the fog, which was simply too dense to be blown away. It perhaps sounded worse than it was in reality, for it did not drown out the sudden knocking at the front entrance. Who could that be? It's awfully late for visitors.
Stay here. I shall go and greet them.
Pendleton departed, leaving me to reflect within my bird cage in silence. Cheep, cheep, cheep. 2 police officers stood before the main entrance. Pendleton knew it would be unwise to open the door for anyone at that time, which was why he chose first to call out to the men.
Excuse me. Might you tell me who our visitor is?
It's Lady Whiteley's schoolmate, Watson. Holmes's assistant, sir.
It's me, Pendleton. I wanted to see how Emily is doing. I've been worried about her. Ah, but of course. Please, come inside. Thanks.
Pendleton immediately escorted Watson upstairs and bid me to step outside my room. Watson's face, which had grown increasingly pale along the way, gained some color back as he saw me. I don't know why, but I'm suspicious that Watson's here. I mean, on the one hand, I could see him checking up on Emily, But on the other, I feel like he would be working with Holmes, no? So I'm suspicious that this is Lupin for some reason. I'm sure Lupin is worried about Emily as well. I'm so glad you're safe, Watson.
Not as glad as I am about you. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Everything's gone well here, then?
Very much so. Has there been any progress at the scene?
I wish I had a better answer to that. A man who goes by Leather Apron is under questioning, but it doesn't seem promising. And if anything were to happen before he's released, that would be evidence enough that he's innocent.
Certainly. Any lead is better than nothing with the public so terrified. They've started to doubt everyone around them.
We've had some willing to speak with information, but nothing's come of them so far. I just hope we can close this case soon. I feel more at ease knowing you're doing well at least.
Watson took my hand into his own. Gosh, all the plays.
You stay safe for me, all right? And for you.
Thank you, Watson. He spoke with clarity and genuine affection, so much so that I was unsure of the appropriate response.
We'll catch Jack the Ripper before anything more happens. I just wanted to say that before I was off again. Sorry for the late-night visit.
Oh, you're always welcome. You stay safe, Watson. And don't hesitate to pester Holmes if he starts to exhaust himself.
That's my job. Good night, then!
Watson let go of my hand, only stepping away just enough to allow Pendleton the last word.
You ought to sleep now, my lady. Leave the rest to me.
Very well. I trust you to look after things, Pendleton. I returned to my room, leaving Pendleton to escort Watson back to the entrance.
Watson, might I have a minute of your time? Of course. You're aware of the photograph featuring the Ripper's letter, correct? Yes, I am. Holmes said to let him know if she's learned anything new from it. Well, as much as it pains me to do this with Lady Whiteley's back turned, I took it upon myself to compare the handwriting to one of the letters she received from Jack Miller's. Letters? Jack's been writing letters to her? The two have exchanged a number of them, it appears.
Aw, man. Well, if this is Watson, his heart just got stomped on because, like, I held her hand. I've made some progress. They've been writing letters. Sorry, Watson.
What? I had no idea. When did that start? If I may continue. Oh! Please do! The handwriting is almost identical, to where I would not be surprised if they were penned by the same hand. That can't be. Mr. Mackenzie showed me some of Jack's classwork. It didn't look at all like the threat letters. It wouldn't. I believe there's enough evidence to claim he changed his style deliberately. Yet even he failed to account for every characteristic unique to him. Take note of the way he writes the letters O and L. You're right. You know, Holmes mentioned this as well. So I'm not alone in my thinking. A careless mistake on his part, then. I do recall him being relaxed around Emily, so it makes for a convincing argument. Then you're suspicious of him. Not suspicious as such. I'm just not very fond of his rapport with Emily. It bothers me.
For numerous reasons, I'm sure.